Hello there. I don't like it.
Greetings and salutations, everyone.
We're going to build a watch today. I don't know what to say. We're going to build one of these. And today, I'm going to build a watch. Stop saying that. You actually need to stop saying that. Let's just... that'll do. Hello, welcome back to It's Another Watch. I had a bunch of spare parts laying around and I thought it might be nice to have an actual watch out of them. So in this one, we're going to build a watch that kind of looks like an SKX. And God willing, I'll have something good at the end of it. Let's get the parts on the table and have a look at them, shall we? So to start with, we've got a standard SKX007 style case from 1 Second Closer that has a 3.8 o'clock crown position and drilled lug holes to make it easy when changing those bracelets. For the movement, naturally, it's the NH36 that comes with a 3 o'clock crown positioned white calendar disc set, and I will be swapping these for a black calendar disc set with kanji on the day disc, and this one, unlike the stock one, will align at the 3.8 o'clock crown position. Then over here, we've got an MM300 style bezel from NamokiMods. We've got an aftermarket SKX007 style dial in black with blue Sunburst and C3 Lume. Then in here, we've got an OEM SKX007 Chapter ring and a piece of flat sapphire crystal with blue anti-reflective coating. Then in here, we've got a coin edge signed S crown and stem. Then here, I've got some parts that I took off the Heimdallr from my previous video, the SKX Style hands with green C3 Lume and the black ceramic Bezel Insert. Then over here, I've got a brand new crystal gasket, a display case back with the accompanying gasket, and the bezel gasket. And then to finish it all off, we have a 22mm lug width Jubilee bracelet with a Seiko stamped fold-over clasp, screw links, solid end links, and it is a milled clasp, so that's nice. So those are the parts. Let's get stuck in, shall we? Right, so first things first, let's make sure that it's functioning correctly. So we'll just pull the crown out to the day setting position. That looks good. Then I'm just going to use a screwdriver and a pair of tweezers to very gently lift the front of the C-clip so that I can fit the screwdriver in underneath there and pry it off. Put that somewhere safe, and then we'll use a piece of Rotico to just lift off the day disc. I'm going to take out these 4 screws here. And then once that's done, we can use a piece of Rotico to carefully lift off this plate. Then on the plate underneath, just pull back this lever to release the date disc and then lift it off. Put the other one on, and then I like to press it down with my fingers and just rotate it gently until it locks into place. Then we can put this one back on, make sure that it's aligned with the little posts that stick up underneath, which both plates align onto. And then once that's in place, just make sure that it's pressed down, and then we can put the screws back in. And I'm just going to put 2 screws in to start. Then we can see if the date is functioning properly, which it is. So then we can put the other 2 screws in and tighten them down. And now we're ready to put the day disc on, so we can put that into place. And then I like to use my fingers and just press and rotate gently until it snaps into place. Check that it's functioning properly. There we go, that seems good. And we can put the C-clip back on. And once it's firmly around the post, you can press it down until it clicks into place. Now we'll just give one more check to make sure that it's still functioning properly, both the day and date. And then we'll do the natural date change after it ticks over 12 o'clock, and that seems to function just fine. So for the dial, we'll just put the dial feet in the little holes on the movement ring, and then make sure that's pressed down. And then if there are any smudges on the dial, I like to use a Q-tip with just a little bit of IPA on it and brush towards the outer edge of the dial, just to get any smudges or marks off, and then use a dry Q-tip to just wipe it away, and then get rid of any fibers with a can of compressed air. Then we're going to set the time just so that it ticks over the 12 o'clock position and changes the date, ready for the hands to be aligned at the 12 o'clock position. I like to use a piece of Rotico to do this so I don't scratch the hands. Then we can just press it down once we've got it in place, make sure that it's level, and then give it a little wipe with a clean piece of Rotico. Try and get the smudges off as best we can. Then just make sure that it's rotating around the dial, not catching on anything, and that the date ticks over at the right point, which it does. So then I can put it at the 6 o'clock position, ready to put the minute hand on. So the same thing here, just use a piece of Rotico to put it in place and get it aligned, and then press down on it as level as we can. And then just make sure that it doesn't conflict with the hour hand and it functions correctly. And if it is ever so slightly out of alignment, you might be able to give it a little nudge into place if the hands fit loosely enough. Some fit tighter than others and they won't let you do it, but these ones do. That looks pretty good. So give it a little clean with some Rotico. And then we're ready for the second hand, which presses onto a tiny pin in the center of the post that the hands push onto. I like to look at it from the side at eye level so I can see it going onto the pin. That's looking good. Then we can just make sure that there's decent spacing between the hands, which it looks like there is. And then I like to do another check just to make sure the hands don't conflict with each other and the watch operates normally. Get rid of any more dust or particles that may have fallen on it. Then we can take it out of the movement holder and remove the temporary crown and stem so that it's ready to be cased. I like to place the movement on this plastic bottle cap so that it's raised up and easier to case later, and then put something on top of it to protect it from dust. With the internals done, it's time to clean the case, ready to press in the crystals. So I'm just using a piece of Rotico here to wipe the insides of it to get rid of any particles so that I can place in the chapter ring, which is sandwiched between the crystal and the case. Then, spending copious amounts of time trying to get every particle off the crystal, only to find more on it later, I'm sure. Then we can pop the crystal gasket inside, making sure the tiny lip on the inside of it is facing down. And then I temporarily put the case back on so that it sits in the recess of the plate that I've screwed onto the crystal press there. And then the plate I'm using to push the crystal down is small enough in diameter that it pushes down flat from the center of the crystal, which works fine for a piece of flat sapphire crystal. And then I'm just rotating it, pressing it down, and then rotating it and pressing it down so that I can get a nice, level, even press so that it hopefully comes out nice and level and doesn't pinch the gasket. Then, if I'm confident that it is going in level, I'll just give it one last press to make sure that it is fully seated, and then we can take it out and have a look at it. I mean, to my eye, it looks good, so we're ready to move on. So I'm just going to use compressed air to get any particles out from the inside of it. And then we're going to put the movement inside the case to see if the chapter ring is properly aligned. And I'm just pressing down from the back to make sure it's properly seated in there. It definitely sits flush up against the bottom edge of the chapter ring there, so there's no gaps. And with that done, it's time to size the stem and do the crown. So I put the stem in and just make a little mark with a pencil so that I roughly know where to cut below. But with an SKX007, you could probably just get a measurement and measure it to a precise length and cut them all the same, and it would probably work. So after cutting it, we're just filing it down to get rid of any burrs or rough edges, and then we can temporarily screw the crown on to see how it lines up. And as you can see, I've still done it quite a bit too long, so I need to take a bit more off and then file it down again so that it's a nice clean edge. Of course, each time you're filing it down, you should clean it with Rotico so you don't get any particles inside the crown. And then we can try it again to see if the crown screws down nice and flush against the case. I found when sizing these stems, it's always better to chop off less than you need rather than more, because you can always come back and take more off, but if you take too much off, you're screwed. So we're just checking the function here to make sure that it's all working properly, and it seems to. Now you don't have to do this, but I'm just mixing up 2-part epoxy here, just so that I can dip the end of the stem in it and then screw the crown on so that it glues it in, just to assist it in staying on there. But you don't necessarily need the glue. If you screw it down firmly, it will stay on there. And I'm just wiping off excess, and then I can put it back in. Next, just lubricating the case back gasket here, ready to screw the case back on. So then using the tweezers, we can just pop that into place and then gently press it into place to make sure that it's seated. Then we can give the inside of the case back a little wipe and spray with air to make sure nothing's on it. And then we can screw it down by hand and then tighten it up with a case back tool. Give it a quick wipe. Then we can use a piece of Rotico to clean where the bezel's going to go. And speaking of the bezel, let's get some adhesive on it ready for the bezel insert. Just peeling it off its backing with some tweezers. And I love these specific rings I got here because they are a perfect fit. So once you press it against the edge of the inside of the bezel, it's absolutely perfectly aligned, and then you can just press it down with your fingers. Then we can just lubricate the bezel gasket just a little bit, and then we can pop it in there with some tweezers and just gently run the smooth edge of the tweezers around the inside to make sure that gasket's fully seated. And then we can pop the click spring on, or the click ring, whatever you want to call it. Make sure that it's in place in the 2 little holes. And then we can place the bezel on top, ready to be pressed down onto the case. I'm using a plate that fits on the inner ring of the bezel, just so when it's fully pressed down, it's nice and level. Then we can make sure it's rotating properly. Then I'm just ticking it over to a resting position so the bezel insert will line up, and then we can remove this backing to reveal the adhesive. I like to line up the arrow of the 12 o'clock position of the bezel insert, and then drop that down, and then I can let the whole thing go, and then gently press it in place once I know that it's aligned, and make sure that after a full rotation it is still in alignment, and then you can firmly press it down. Now all that's left is to put the bracelet on. Putting the bracelet on is pretty straightforward. You just put the spring bars in the end lugs and then compress each side in while pressing slightly down on it so that the end lug moves down into place and the spring bars extend into the holes on the inside, locking it into place. And there you go. Look at that. We've got an SKX. So here it is, the result of all that tinkering. We've got what looks like a standard SKX, but, you know, with a twist. What with the Lume being green all the time instead of white, and that subtle blue of the Sunburst with that 200 just popping off the dial in red. I think this would also look really nice with just a plain black Sunburst dial, but I think what lets it down for me is that the hands and indices are light green all the time, even in natural light. Unless you're shining bright lights on them where they look white here, they are green all the time, and I think it would look cleaner if it was white. And I would prefer to have a sapphire crystal that doesn't have the slope around the edges of it, creating that mirrored bubble effect between the bezel insert and the chapter ring. That being said, for £11, it's a pretty nice piece of sapphire crystal. I quite like this bracelet as well. It was £35 on eBay, and it comes with the Seiko logo stamped on this milled clasp here. It tapers down to 18mm, so that's a 20mm clasp, and it's got screw links and solid end links, which are removable. It's not bad considering. It's also quite a comfortable strap on wrist as well. There it is in some natural light. So I couldn't get away with finishing this one without any problems. The day after I finished shooting this video, I decided to grind down the crown guards a little bit to make them more comfortable, and when I went to put the watch back together, the second hand fell off, which confirmed my suspicions that it went on far too easily in the process of putting it together because the tolerance is just gone. So I had a spare set of cheap Seamaster Hands, and I just took the second hand from that and put it on here. Still, it's not that big a deal. I think it looks alright, and this one went on nice and firmly, so there's no way it's coming off. And these crown guards are now much more comfortable now that I've rounded off and polished them, so it's much more comfortable to wear on wrist. You might also notice that it's now on an oyster bracelet instead of the Jubilee bracelet that I had before. The screw that held in the end link kept coming out, and when I tightened it in, it was literally pushing the link before the lug apart. And, you know, they're pressed tightly together in the factory. They're not supposed to come apart, especially not by screwing in an end link. So, you know, I've sent that back. The seller has been adamant that they're going to get it sorted for me, so we'll get another Jubilee bracelet back on this. But in the meantime, I wanted to wear it, so I just threw on my strap code bracelet that I had, waiting for another build. And although I do like the Jubilee for this one, this oyster-style bracelet looks pretty good on it as well. And as for that second hand, I actually quite like the fact that the tip is red because it matches the 200 on the dial, so it just makes the colours pop all that little bit more. Still, it'll be good once I get the replacement Jubilee bracelet to go back on here. And who knows, maybe I'll change the hands and dial in the future and transform the watch entirely all over again. So there you have it. That's my SKX spare parts build. I have no idea what I'm going to call it. I just had fun building it, except for when things go wrong, the fun starts to plummet. You just throw it out the window. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed it. I certainly enjoyed doing it. I enjoy putting videos like this together when my video editing software doesn't repeatedly crash. Anyway, I think I've waffled on about this one enough. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you next time.